There is a gate standing open in your consciousness right now, not as a concept, not as a metaphor you can appreciate from a comfortable distance and then set aside. An actual threshold, an actual edge. And you are standing at it, whether you recognize it or not. Something brought you here, something that operates below the level of your deliberate choices, below the layer where you decide what to watch and what to scroll past and what to dismiss. Something that functions more like a tuning fork than a decision. A resonance that pulled this moment toward you before your conscious mind had any say in the matter. And that pull, that inexplicable gravity that landed you exactly here, exactly now, is itself the first signal. The gate doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It announces itself by making certain things unavoidable. You've been feeling something, maybe for days, maybe for months, maybe for so long that you've stopped expecting it to resolve into clarity and have simply begun carrying it the way you carry everything else, quietly, persistently, with the low background ache of something unfinished. A sense that you are between two versions of yourself and cannot quite locate either one. A feeling that the life you were living has become slightly translucent, like you can see through it now to something else underneath. And you're not sure whether that's frightening or exactly what you've been waiting for. That is the gate. That precise sensation, the translucency, the in-betweenness, the feeling of standing in a corridor between two rooms where neither door is fully open. That is what a threshold feels like from the inside. And most people spend years in that corridor without ever understanding what it is, without ever realizing that the disorientation itself is the signal, that the feeling of not quite belonging to the old reality anymore is not a problem to be solved, but a passage to be crossed. This transmission is about that crossing. Specifically, it's about what is happening in your energy field right now. What has been happening for longer than you've had words for it, and what becomes possible the moment you understand the threshold you're standing at and choose, with full conscious awareness, to step through it. Here is what we're going to do together. We're going to name the gate. We're going to look at both sides of it with clear eyes. What exists on the side you've been standing on, and what exists on the other side. We are going to understand the quantum mechanics of why consciousness crosses thresholds the way it does. Not gradually, not incrementally, but in specific, precise moments of state change that reorganize everything at once. And then we're going to cross it, not as a performance, not as a visualization you observe from the outside, as an actual shift in the frequency you're operating at. A real transition from one state to another that will be measurable in your experience within hours of this transmission ending. But first, you need to understand what you're actually standing in front of. Because the gate you're at right now is not what most people think it is. It's not a spiritual promotion. It's not a reward for having done enough inner work. It's not a destination you've finally earned after sufficient seeking. It's a frequency threshold, a point where the signal you've been carrying inside you has grown strong enough, coherent enough, to cross into a domain of reality that operates at a different resonant frequency than the one you've been living in. And the primary thing standing between you and that crossing is not unworthiness. It's not spiritual insufficiency. It's not some missing piece of cosmic knowledge you haven't acquired yet. It's interference. There is a specific kind of interference running in your field right now. It has been running for a long time. It is not yours. It was never yours. But it has been present for so long that it has started to feel like the background texture of your experience, like the hum of a refrigerator that you stopped consciously hearing years ago, but that is nevertheless always there, always consuming energy, always introducing a low-level distortion into everything you receive and transmit. This interference is what makes the gate feel impassable. It's what makes the threshold feel like a wall. It's what takes the signal of your actual frequency, the coherent, high-resonance signal of what you actually are at the level of your deepest structure, and scrambles it just enough that you can't quite lock in, can't quite stabilize on the other side, can't quite make the crossing stick. And here is the thing about interference. The moment you understand what it is, the moment you can see it clearly rather than experiencing it as a vague, sourceless obstruction, it begins to lose its grip. Because interference operates through invisibility. It operates through being mistaken for reality itself. The moment you can say, "This is interference, and this is the signal beneath the interference," you have already begun the crossing. You have already taken the first step through the gate. So, let's look at the interference directly. Let's name it. Let's understand its structure, and then let's understand the precise mechanism by which it dissolves. Not through effort, not through fighting it, but through something far more elegant and far more powerful. Through frequency match. Through the exact principle that quantum mechanics has been describing for a century, the principle that governs every state transition in the universe, from the collapse of a wave function, to the phase transition of water to ice, to the moment a human consciousness crosses from one reality to another. The gate opens when your frequency matches what's on the other side. That's the whole mechanism. That's the entire physics of crossing. And by the time this transmission ends, your frequency will have shifted enough that the match is made. The gate will not just be open, you will already be through it. Let's begin. To understand the interference, you have to understand something about how fields work. Not in the abstract, mystical sense, but in the precise, operational sense. Every system, every physical system, every biological system, every conscious system maintains its state through resonance. It vibrates at a particular frequency, and that frequency is what makes it what it is. Water at room temperature is liquid, not because of some arbitrary designation, but because the molecular resonance of H2O at that temperature produces that particular state. Change the frequency, apply heat or remove it, and the state changes. The same molecules, completely reorganized into a different expression of themselves. Consciousness works the same way. Your current state of consciousness, the particular quality of awareness you wake up with, the particular lens through which you experience reality, the particular frequency at which you're operating, is maintained by resonance, by a set of patterns that reinforce each other, that lock each other in place, that create a stable, self-sustaining field that persists over time. This is not a flaw in the design. Stability is necessary. If your state of consciousness shifted randomly and constantly, you would have no continuity of experience, no ability to function, no way to navigate a world that requires consistent perception. The resonant stability of your consciousness is what allows you to be a coherent self over time. But here is where it gets complicated. Here is where the interference enters. Because the field that maintains your current state of consciousness doesn't only contain your signal, it contains everything that field has been exposed to. Every environment you've lived in. Every relationship that shaped your nervous system. Every cultural narrative that got absorbed before you had the cognitive capacity to evaluate it. Every moment of trauma that left its frequency signature in your field. Every belief about what you are and what reality is that was handed to you before you could choose whether to accept it. All of that is in there. All of that is contributing to the resonance that maintains your current state. And most of it, most of what is holding your current state in place, is not yours. It was never yours. It was placed in your field by forces that had nothing to do with your actual nature, your actual frequency, your actual purpose for being here. This is the interference. It's not a malevolent force. It's not an enemy. It's not something that attacked you from outside. It's accumulated resonance from a world that operates at a lower frequency than what you actually are. And you've been living inside that world long enough that its frequency has layered itself into your field, not replacing your signal, never replacing it. Your signal is indestructible. It was encoded at a level too deep to be overwritten. But sitting on top of it, sitting over it like static over a radio transmission, making it difficult to receive clearly, making it difficult to transmit clearly, making it difficult to know with certainty what is you and what is the accumulated frequency of everything that was never you. The exhaustion you feel is real. The sense of not quite fitting, not quite belonging, not quite being able to access the version of yourself that you know exists. that is real. The feeling that there is something more coherent, more luminous, more purposeful available to you just on the other side of some threshold you can't quite locate. That is real. And it all comes from this, from the distance between your actual frequency and the frequency of the interference field that has been running in your system. That distance is experienced as friction, as the persistent sense of something being slightly wrong, slightly off, slightly not quite right, even in moments that should feel fine. That friction is the gate. That friction is the signal that you are close enough to the threshold that you can feel the difference between the two states. And the fact that you can feel it, the fact that the friction is conscious rather than just ambient background noise, means you are ready to cross. If what you're encountering here is landing somewhere real in you, like and subscribe so these transmissions keep finding you. Now, let's talk about what crossing actually means. Because this is where most people get confused, and where the confusion costs them the crossing itself. The way most people think about spiritual evolution is gradual. You do the work, you accumulate the practices, you build the understanding piece by piece, and slowly, over time, you become more of what you're trying to become. Like filling a container or climbing a slope. Incremental, linear, additive. But that is not how state transitions work. That is not how consciousness actually evolves. Look at water again. You can heat water slowly, degree by degree, and for a long time, nothing dramatic happens. The water gets warmer. It stays water. You add more heat. It gets warmer still water. And then, at a precise, specific temperature, everything changes at once. Not gradually, not incrementally, all at once. The entire system reorganizes into a completely different state in a moment that is, from a physics standpoint, discontinuous. The water doesn't become slightly more steam over time. It crosses a threshold and becomes steam. This is a phase transition, and it is the fundamental mechanism by which every state change in the universe occurs. Not gradual slope, threshold, crossing, arrival. Quantum mechanics describes this at the most fundamental level of reality. A quantum system in superposition, existing in multiple potential states simultaneously, doesn't gradually resolve into one state. It collapses. At a specific moment, triggered by a specific interaction, the superposition ends, and one state becomes real. The transition is instantaneous. There is no in-between. There is superposition, and then there is collapse into defined reality. Your consciousness operates by the same principle. You have been in superposition, carrying both the old state and the new state simultaneously, existing in the tension between who you were and who you're becoming, feeling both the pull of the familiar and the pull of what's on the other side of the gate. That superposition is the corridor you've been standing in. That superposition is the threshold experience, and the crossing, the actual state transition, is not gradual. It's not a matter of doing enough work until you slowly drift into the new state. It's a collapse, a moment where the superposition ends and the new state becomes real, instantaneous, irreversible, complete. The question is not whether you can make that crossing. The question is not whether you have enough spiritual credentials or enough accumulated practice or enough understanding of the right concepts. The question is simply this: what triggers the collapse? What is the specific interaction that causes the superposition to end and the new state to become real? In quantum mechanics, the answer is observation, conscious interaction with the system. The act of a conscious observer engaging with a quantum system is what causes the wave function to collapse. Not effort, not force, not accumulation. Observation, conscious engagement, presence. And in consciousness, in the specific state transition you're standing at right now, the answer is the same. Conscious recognition. The moment you see the interference clearly, not as a vague sense of something being wrong, but as a specific, identifiable frequency pattern that is not yours and is not real, the superposition begins to collapse. The moment you consciously engage with the signal beneath the interference, not as a concept, but as an actual frequency you can feel in your body, in your chest, in the space behind your eyes, the collapse accelerates, and the moment you make the choice, the actual conscious choice, to orient toward the new state rather than the old one. That is the crossing. That is the gate. That is the moment where one version of you ends and another begins. This is not passive. This is the most active thing you will ever do. Not active in the sense of effort or struggle or force, but active in the sense of full conscious engagement, full presence, full orientation. The gate doesn't cross you. You cross it. And you cross it by being more present, more conscious, more deliberately engaged with what is actually happening in your field right now than you have ever been before. So let's get specific. Let's talk about what is actually on both sides of this gate, so you know with precision what you're moving away from and what you're moving toward. On the side you've been standing on, the side where the interference runs, reality has a particular texture. It feels dense. It has a quality of effort to it, a sense that things require more energy than they should. That movement through your life requires constant pushing rather than natural flow. Relationships feel complicated in ways that are hard to articulate. Decisions feel weighted with a kind of gravity that seems disproportionate to the actual stakes. There is a persistent background frequency of not quite enough clarity, not quite enough certainty, not quite enough sense that you are where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing. On this side of the gate, your gifts feel intermittent. You have moments of extraordinary clarity, moments where you can feel your actual frequency, your actual signal coming through cleanly, where you feel luminous and purposeful and precisely aligned. And then the interference reasserts itself, and those moments fade, and you're left wondering whether they were real, or whether you imagined them, or whether you'll ever be able to sustain that state rather than just glimpsing it in passing. On this side of the gate, the past has weight. Not just emotional weight, actual frequency weight. The patterns that were installed in your field before you had any say in the matter continue to generate their frequency, continue to add their resonance to your field, continue to shape the reality you're experiencing, even when you've done significant work to understand and process them. You understand why you are the way you are. You have insight into the patterns, but insight by itself doesn't change the frequency. Understanding the interference doesn't silence it. On this side of the gate, there is a particular kind of loneliness that is hard to name. Not social loneliness, necessarily. You may have people around you, connections, relationships, but a deeper loneliness. A sense of being slightly out of phase with the world around you, of perceiving things that others don't perceive, of knowing things that others don't know, of carrying a frequency that doesn't quite match the frequency of your environment. This is the loneliness of someone standing at a gate that most people around them can't see, looking at a threshold that their world doesn't have a map for. That is the side you've been on. Now let's look at the other side. On the other side of this gate, and I want you to listen to this carefully, because what I'm about to describe is not a fantasy, not an idealized spiritual destination, not something that exists only in theory. On the other side of this gate, the interference is gone. Not suppressed, not managed, not temporarily quieted through practice. Gone. Because the frequency on the other side of this gate is not compatible with the interference frequency. They cannot coexist. When you cross into a coherent, high-resonance state, the interference patterns that were maintained by the lower frequency field of your old state lose their anchor. They have nothing to attach to. They dissolve. This is not metaphor. This is physics. Coherent, high-frequency fields are not susceptible to the same interference patterns that affect lower frequency fields. The interference was never about you. It was about the frequency you were operating at. And that frequency was partly a product of the accumulated resonance of everything that was placed in your field before you could choose otherwise. Change the frequency, and the interference that was specific to that frequency no longer has purchase. On the other side of this gate, your signal comes through clearly, not intermittently, not in flashes that fade. Clearly and consistently, because there is nothing running in your field that is scrambling it. You know what you know. You feel what you feel. You perceive what you perceive, without the constant second-guessing that comes from not being able to distinguish your signal from the static. On the other side of this gate, your gifts become stable. The clarity you've been glimpsing in moments becomes your baseline. The luminous, purposeful, aligned state that you've been visiting occasionally becomes the state you operate from. Not because you've added anything, not because you've acquired some new capacity or accumulated some new knowledge, but because the interference that was preventing you from operating at your actual frequency has dissolved, and what was always there, what was always encoded in your deepest structure, is now running clean. On the other side of this gate, the past loses its frequency weight, not because you forget it, not because you bypass it or transcend it in some way that leaves it unprocessed, but because the patterns that were installed in your field no longer have a compatible frequency to attach to. They become information rather than interference. They become part of your understanding rather than part of your operating frequency. The history is still there. The understanding is still there. But the charge, the frequency charge that was keeping those old patterns active and influential, is gone. And on the other side of this gate, the loneliness resolves. Not because your environment changes immediately, though it will, because your frequency changes, and your frequency is what your environment responds to. The sense of being out of phase with the world around you resolves because you are no longer out of phase with yourself. And when you are in phase with yourself, when your signal is running clean and your field is coherent, you begin to attract, to resonate with, the environments and relationships and circumstances that match your actual frequency, rather than the interference frequency you were broadcasting before. This is what's on the other side. And you are standing at the exact crossing point right now. The question is not whether the gate exists. You can feel it. The question is not whether you're ready. The fact that you're here, the fact that this transmission is reaching you, is itself the readiness signal. The question is simply whether you will cross with full conscious awareness, with your eyes open to what you're leaving and what you're moving toward, or whether you will hesitate at the threshold until the window closes and the crossing has to wait for the next time the frequency alignment is this precise. And I want to talk about that hesitation, because it is real. And it is worth understanding, not to judge it, but to see it clearly, because seeing it clearly is what dissolves it. The hesitation at the gate comes from a very specific place. It comes from the part of your system that has been maintaining the current state, the part that has organized itself around the interference frequency, and has, in a certain sense, built a functional identity out of navigating that frequency. That part of you knows how to operate in the interference field. It has strategies. It has adaptations. It has a whole set of tools and responses and ways of being that were built specifically for the reality on this side of the gate. And crossing the gate means those tools become obsolete. Not wrong. They were exactly right for the reality they were built for, but obsolete. Because the reality on the other side of the gate doesn't require them. The strategies you developed for navigating interference don't apply in a field where the interference is gone. The adaptations you built for surviving a dense, misaligned, low-frequency environment don't translate to an environment that is coherent and aligned and high frequency. So the hesitation is, at its core, a question from the part of you that built those tools. If I cross, who am I without these? If the interference is gone, what do I do with the strategies I built to survive it? If the density dissolves, what happens to the strength I developed by pushing against it? This is a legitimate question, and the answer is this. You become more, not less. The strength you developed pushing against density doesn't disappear when the density dissolves. It becomes available for creation rather than resistance. The clarity you developed navigating interference doesn't disappear when the interference dissolves. It becomes available for perception rather than just discernment. Everything you built, everything you developed, everything you became through the experience of navigating the interference field, all of it comes with you. None of it is lost. What is lost is only the interference itself. And the interference was never you. It was never yours. Losing it is not losing a part of yourself. It is losing a weight you were never supposed to carry. The version of you that emerges on the other side of this gate is not a different person. It is a cleaner, clearer, more coherent expression of the same person. The same essential nature, the same fundamental frequency, the same gifts and capacities and knowing, operating without the distortion that has been running in your field for as long as you can remember. You don't lose yourself in this crossing. You find yourself, for the first time, clearly, without interference. Think back to a moment when you knew, before your mind had caught up, that you had already crossed a point of no return. A moment when the old version of your life became suddenly transparent, when something shifted all at once and there was no going back. Leave that in the comments. Not the story around it, just the quality of it. What it felt like to be standing exactly there. Now I want to tell you a story. Because there is a way that abstract understanding, even precise and accurate abstract understanding, doesn't fully land until it becomes embodied in a specific human experience. And this story is about a threshold very much like the one you're standing at right now. Her name was Mara, and she had been standing at a gate for 7 years. She knew it was there. She had known it was there for most of those 7 years, in the way that you know something is true before you have the words for it. A bone-deep certainty that something was waiting for her on the other side of something she couldn't quite name. She had done everything she knew to do to get there. She had studied. She had practiced. She had sat in meditation for thousands of hours. She had worked with teachers and healers and guides. She had processed her childhood, her lineage, her past lives, if you believed in those. She had cleared and released and transformed more layers of herself than she could count. And still, she stood at the gate. Not because she hadn't done enough. Not because she was spiritually insufficient. Not because the gate wasn't real or wasn't open, but because she was approaching the crossing as an addition rather than a transition. She was trying to accumulate enough clarity, enough healing, enough understanding, enough light to tip the scale and finally arrive on the other side. She was treating the crossing like a slope she needed to climb high enough on rather than a threshold she needed to step through. And the interference in her field was exploiting that approach perfectly. Because the interference, the accumulated frequency of everything that was never hers, had learned to mimic the voice of insufficiency. Every time she got close to the gate, close enough to feel the heat of the frequency on the other side, the interference would generate a thought that felt exactly like her own discernment. Not yet. Not ready. One more thing to clear. One more layer to process. One more understanding to arrive at before you can cross. And she would believe it, because it sounded like wisdom. It sounded like the reasonable voice of someone who understood that real transformation required real preparation. It sounded like the responsible spiritual practitioner being honest with herself about where she actually was. But it was interference. It was the frequency of the old state protecting its own continuity. It was the resonance of everything she'd absorbed from a world that told her she was not yet enough, not yet worthy, not yet ready. And it had learned to speak in the voice of her own spiritual discernment, so that she would follow it without questioning it. 7 years at the gate. And then, one morning, she was sitting in her usual meditation, in the usual chair, in the usual room, doing the usual practice. And something shifted. Not because she had finally accumulated enough. Not because she had finally cleared the last layer. Not because a teacher finally gave her the missing piece of understanding she'd been searching for. It shifted because she stopped. She stopped trying to cross. She stopped trying to accumulate. She stopped listening to the voice that said, "Not yet." And she stopped arguing with it. And she stopped trying to prove to it that she was ready. She just stopped. And in that stopping, in that moment of complete stillness that was not surrender, but something more precise, more deliberate, more aware than surrender, she felt the gate, not as a concept, as an actual frequency, as a specific, tangible quality of energy that was right there, right in front of her, right at the edge of where she was sitting. And she felt the difference between the frequency on her side of it, dense, familiar, slightly effortful, carrying the particular texture of everything she'd been navigating for years, and the frequency on the other side of it, which was clean, luminous, completely still in the way that only very high frequencies are still, not empty, absolutely full, but without the interference, without the static, without the particular weight that she had been carrying for so long that she had stopped noticing it was weight. And she understood. In that moment, she understood that the crossing was not an accumulation. It was a choice, a single, clear, fully conscious choice to orient toward the frequency on the other side of the gate rather than the frequency on this side. Not to fight the interference, not to clear it first, not to prepare for it or qualify for it or earn it, just to turn toward it, to face it, to let the frequency on the other side of the gate be more real to her than the frequency she'd been standing in. She crossed, not dramatically, not with fireworks or visions or any of the external signals she had been expecting for 7 years. She crossed quietly, in a chair, in an ordinary room, on an ordinary morning. She crossed by choosing, with full conscious awareness, to let the new frequency be more real than the old one. And when she opened her eyes, the room looked the same. The chair was the same. The morning light through the window was the same. But the interference was gone. The constant low-level static that had been running beneath everything, that she had stopped noticing because it had been there for so long, was gone. And in its absence, she could hear her own signal for the first time, clearly, without distortion, without the second guessing, and the not quite sure, and the one more thing to clear. She was on the other side, and the first thing she noticed was not some dramatic expansion of consciousness or some overwhelming flood of cosmic information. The first thing she noticed was how quiet it was, how still, how clean, like the silence after a sound you've been hearing for so long that you forgot it was a sound. And then it stops, and the silence is almost shocking in its completeness. That is the crossing. That is what's available to you right now. Not after one more layer of clearing. Not after you've finally accumulated enough. Now, in this moment, through the precise, deliberate, fully conscious choice to orient toward the frequency on the other side of the gate. Is there a version of Mara's story living in you? A voice that keeps saying, "Not yet," one more thing, almost but not quite. Tell me what that voice sounds like in the comments. Naming it out loud is its own form of crossing. Let me take you to the gate right now. I want you to do something. Not later. Not as a practice you'll come back to when you have more time and more quiet and more preparation. Now, in whatever environment you're in, with whatever level of stillness is available to you right now, bring your attention to your body. Not to your thoughts about your body, not to your assessment of how your body is doing or what it needs, or what it's been through, to the actual physical sensation of being in a body right now. The weight of it, the breath moving through it, the particular quality of aliveness that is present in you right now, in this moment, regardless of everything else. Feel that. Now, beneath that, beneath the sensation of the body and the awareness of the breath and the physical quality of being here, there is something else, something quieter, something that doesn't change when the body changes, or when the thoughts change, or when the circumstances of your life change. Something that was present when you were born and has been present through every experience you've had since then, and will be present when this transmission ends and you go back to your day. That is your signal. That is your actual frequency. That is the thing the interference has been sitting on top of, scrambling, distorting, but never touching, never replacing, never diminishing. It's still there. It has always been there. It is there, right now. Can you feel it? Not as a concept, as an actual quality of your experience, as something that is genuinely present in your awareness right now, distinct from the thoughts and the sensations and the stories and the interference. A quality of knowing, of being, of presence that is just there, clean and quiet and completely itself. That is the frequency on the other side of the gate. That is what you're crossing toward. Not something foreign, not something outside you, not something you have to acquire or earn or be given by any external source. Something that is already yours, already present, already running, just running beneath the interference rather than through it. Now feel the interference. Feel the layer that is sitting on top of that signal. The thoughts that are running, the assessments and the doubts and the evaluations and the background noise of everything that has been installed in your field. The familiar texture of your ordinary consciousness, the slight effortfulness, the slight density, the slight sense of something being in the way. Feel both of them simultaneously. The signal and the interference. The clean frequency of your actual nature and the accumulated resonance of everything that was never yours. Hold both of them in your awareness at the same time. This is the threshold. This is the gate. This is the exact crossing point. The moment of superposition where both states are simultaneously present in your awareness, and you can feel the difference between them. Now make a choice. Not a thought about a choice. Not a decision that you process and evaluate and reason through. A choice that comes from the deepest level of your being, from the place that already knows, from the signal itself, rather than from the interference. Choose the signal. Choose to let the clean frequency of your actual nature be more real than the interference that has been running over it. Not by fighting the interference, not by trying to push it away or clear it or process it, by simply, clearly, deliberately, with full conscious awareness, turning toward the signal, orienting toward it, making it the thing you are moving toward, rather than the thing you're trying to get past. Feel what happens when you do that. Feel how the interference, the accumulated resonance of everything that was never yours, loses its grip when you stop treating it as reality, when you stop orienting toward it, when you stop giving it your attention and your energy and your belief that it is what's real. It begins to dissolve. Not because you fought it, because you stopped feeding it the one thing that maintained it, your orientation. Feel the signal strengthen. Feel it come forward. Feel it become more present, more available, more real in your experience as you orient toward it, rather than toward the interference. This is the crossing. You are doing it right now. Stay here for a moment. Don't rush through this. This is the most important moment in this transmission. This is the actual threshold. The words before this were bringing you to the gate. These words are the gate itself. And what you're experiencing right now, this specific quality of awareness, this specific orientation toward the signal rather than the interference, is the crossing. Feel how different this is from the side you've been standing on. Feel the quiet. Feel the clarity. Feel the particular quality of stillness that is not emptiness, but fullness without interference. The way a clear sky is full without being cluttered. Feel your own signal coming through cleanly, without distortion, without the second guessing that comes from not being able to distinguish your frequency from the static. This is the other side. You're here, not as a destination you've arrived at after sufficient effort, not as a reward for having done enough, as a state you've crossed into by making the precise, conscious, deliberate choice to orient toward your actual frequency, rather than toward the interference that has been running over it. And here is what I need you to understand about this moment. It is irreversible. Not in a way that means you can never feel the interference again. You will. The old patterns have inertia. The accumulated resonance of everything that was placed in your field before you could choose otherwise doesn't dissolve in an instant just because you've crossed the threshold. You will feel it again. You will have moments where it reasserts itself, where the old frequency pulls at you, where the interference feels real again. But here is what has changed. You now know the difference. You have felt both sides of the gate from the inside. You have felt the signal and the interference simultaneously, and you have felt what it is to choose the signal. That knowledge, that specific, embodied, experiential knowledge of the difference between your actual frequency and the interference, cannot be unlearned. It cannot be taken from you. It is now part of your field in a way that will persist. Every time the interference reasserts itself, you will now be able to recognize it as interference rather than reality. And every time you make the choice to orient toward the signal rather than the interference, the signal gets stronger and the interference gets weaker. Not because you're fighting it, because you're starving it of the orientation that maintained it. This is how the crossing becomes permanent. Not in a single dramatic moment of complete and total transformation, but through the accumulation of choices, each one clearer and more deliberate than the last, to orient toward the signal. Each choice is its own small threshold. Each choice is its own small crossing. And each crossing makes the next one easier, because the signal gets stronger and the interference gets weaker, until the interference no longer has enough resonance to generate a convincing simulation of reality. Until the gate is so far behind you that you can barely remember what it felt like to stand at it. Now, let's talk about what changes. Because this is important, and it's where a lot of people who cross thresholds get confused. They expect the changes to be dramatic and immediate and visible in every area of their life simultaneously. And when that doesn't happen, when they wake up the next morning and the circumstances of their life look more or less the same as they did before the crossing, they conclude that nothing actually changed, that the crossing wasn't real, that they're back on the wrong side of the gate. This is a misunderstanding of how threshold crossings work. And it's a misunderstanding that can actually pull you back across the gate if you let it, because it reactivates the interference frequency, the not yet, not ready, not enough frequency, in a moment when your field is still stabilizing in the new state. Here is what actually changes when you cross this threshold. And here is the timeline on which it changes. The first thing that changes is internal, and it changes immediately. The interference, the static, the distortion, the particular quality of density and effortfulness that has characterized your experience loses its dominance. It doesn't disappear completely in the first hours or even the first days, but it loses its dominance. It becomes something you observe rather than something you're inside of. You begin to have moments of extraordinary clarity that are not exceptional, that are not the rare glimpses you've been having for years, but that feel like your new baseline. Like this is just what it's like to be you now. The second thing that changes is your relationship to your own knowing. On the interference side of the gate, you frequently doubted your own perceptions. You second-guessed your clarity. You wondered whether what you were feeling was real or whether you were projecting, whether what you were knowing was genuine or whether it was wishful thinking, whether the guidance you were receiving was authentic or whether you were just telling yourself what you wanted to hear. On the other side of the gate, that second-guessing diminishes dramatically. Not because you become infallible, you don't, but because you can now feel the difference between your signal and the interference, And that means you can tell the difference between a genuine perception and a distorted one. Your discernment becomes reliable in a way it never was when you couldn't distinguish your signal from the static. The third thing that changes is the quality of your energy. The exhaustion, the particular bone-deep weariness that comes from years of navigating a dense, misaligned frequency environment, begins to lift. Not all at once, not overnight, but you begin to notice that you have more energy than you used to. That things that used to cost you enormous amounts of energy to navigate now require much less. That you are no longer spending a constant background portion of your energy budget on maintaining yourself against the interference, because the interference is no longer dominant enough to require that maintenance. The fourth thing that changes is your external reality. And this is the one that takes the longest. And this is the one that people most often mistake for evidence that the crossing didn't work. Your external reality, your circumstances, your relationships, your environment, lags behind your internal frequency shift. This is normal. This is expected. The external world responds to your frequency, but it responds with a delay. The circumstances of your life were built in resonance with your old frequency. They don't instantly reorganize just because your frequency has changed. They reorganize over time as the new frequency becomes stable and consistent and begins to attract the circumstances and relationships and opportunities that match it. This is why the most important thing you can do in the days and weeks after this crossing is to stay on this side of the gate, to keep choosing the signal over the interference every time the interference reasserts itself, to keep orienting toward the frequency on this side of the threshold, even when the external circumstances of your life are still reflecting the old frequency, because the external world will catch up. It always does, but only if you stay crossed. Only if you don't let the lag between internal shift and external change convince you that nothing happened. The gate is always open on this side. That is the thing that people don't tell you. Once you've crossed, the gate remains open, not to go back through, but as a reference point, as a reminder of where you are and what you've crossed out of. Every time the interference tries to pull you back, you can feel the gate. You can feel the threshold. You can feel the difference between the two sides. And you can choose, again, to stay on this side. That choice, made again and again in small moments and large ones, in quiet mornings and difficult conversations, and moments of doubt and moments of clarity. That choice is what makes the crossing permanent. That choice is what turns a threshold experience into a new way of being. Now, I want to speak to something that comes up for almost everyone at this point in the crossing. A very specific kind of resistance that is worth naming directly so you can see it for what it is, rather than being derailed by it. At some point in the next few days, maybe in the next few hours, something will happen that will seem to contradict the crossing. Some circumstance, some thought, some interaction, some feeling will arise that will seem to say, "See, nothing changed. You're still the same. The interference is still running. You're still on the wrong side of the gate. The crossing wasn't real. This is not evidence that the crossing wasn't real. This is the interference making one more attempt to reassert itself. This is the old frequency doing what frequencies do when they're losing dominance, generating one final, convincing signal that tries to pull the system back into the old state. In physics, this is called a phase transition reversal. When a system is crossing a threshold, when water is at exactly 100 degrees, right at the boundary between liquid and steam, it is maximally susceptible to reversal. A small perturbation can push it back to the liquid state. The threshold is the most unstable point in the transition, not because the transition isn't real, but because it is real, and the old state is making its last stand. The same thing happens in consciousness. The days immediately after a threshold crossing are the most susceptible to reversal. Not because the crossing wasn't genuine, but because the old state is doing everything it can to re-establish itself before the new state stabilizes. The interference will be louder in the days after the crossing than it has been in a while, precisely because it is losing ground and it knows it. When this happens, and it will, do not interpret it as evidence that the crossing failed. Interpret it as evidence that the crossing succeeded. The interference only gets louder when it's losing. The old state only fights harder when it's being displaced. The resistance is not a sign that you haven't crossed. It is a sign that you have. Stay on this side of the gate. Keep choosing the signal. Keep orienting toward the clean frequency of your actual nature, rather than toward the interference that is making its last stand. And watch what happens when you do. Watch how quickly the resistance dissolves when you stop giving it your orientation. Watch how fast the interference loses its grip when you consistently refuse to treat it as reality. The crossing is real. The other side is real. And you are on it. There is something else I want to address before we move into the final part of this transmission. Something that is important for the specific threshold you've crossed today, and for the broader journey that begins on this side of the gate. The interference you've been carrying, the accumulated resonance of everything that was placed in your field before you could choose otherwise, did not just affect you. It affected everything you were in relationship with. Your connections, your creative work, your service, the way you showed up in the world. All of it was filtered through the interference, which means all of it was slightly distorted, slightly less than what it would have been if your signal had been running clean. This is not a criticism. It is a fact of physics. You cannot transmit a clean signal through a field that is running interference. You can transmit the best signal available given the conditions, and you did. You have been doing that consistently for as long as you've been doing this work. But the conditions were limiting what was possible. On this side of the gate, the conditions have changed. Your signal is cleaner. Your transmission is clearer. What you offer to the people in your life, to your creative work, to whatever your particular form of service is, will be more coherent, more potent, more precisely aligned with what it was designed to be. Not because you've become more than you were, because you've become more clearly what you always were, without the distortion. This means that the relationships and connections that are genuinely resonant with your actual frequency will deepen and strengthen. They will feel more real, more nourishing, more aligned, and the relationships and connections that were primarily maintained by the interference, that were built on the distorted signal rather than the clean one, may shift. Some will shift toward greater depth as the people involved respond to your cleaner frequency. Some will shift away because they were built on a resonance that no longer exists in your field. This is not loss. It is alignment. It is your field organizing itself around your actual frequency rather than around the interference. And the reorganization, while it may feel disorienting in the short term, is the most important gift the crossing gives you. A life that is built on what you actually are, rather than on what the interference made you appear to be. Let that reorganize. Let it happen. Trust the frequency. Trust that what is genuinely resonant with your actual nature will stay and strengthen, and what was built on the interference will gracefully dissolve. The dissolution is not failure. It is the clearing that makes space for what is actually yours. Now, the community of people who are standing at gates. You are not alone in this crossing. There are others, many others, who are standing at thresholds right now, who are feeling the interference and the signal simultaneously, who are close enough to the gate to feel the heat of the frequency on the other side, who are ready to cross, but haven't yet found the precise understanding of what the crossing actually is, haven't yet been able to distinguish the interference from the signal clearly enough to make the choice. Some of them are in your life right now. Some of them will enter your life in the weeks and months ahead, drawn by the cleaner frequency you're now transmitting. And some of them are watching transmissions like this one, standing at their own gates, feeling the same threshold tension you were feeling when this transmission began. Your crossing matters to them, not in an abstract, collective consciousness kind of way, in a very specific frequency level way. When you cross a threshold, when you stabilize in a new state of consciousness, you add that frequency to the field. You demonstrate, at the level of lived experience rather than theory, that the crossing is possible. you become a reference point, a frequency anchor for others who are approaching the same gate. This is not a burden. This is the natural consequence of what you've just done. You don't have to do anything special with it. You don't have to teach or guide or lead. You simply have to stay on this side of the gate. Keep choosing the signal. Keep orienting toward your actual frequency, and your field will do the rest. The coherence you're now operating from is itself a contribution to the collective field. It is itself a form of service. But there is something specific you can do. In the comments, in the conversations, in the connections that form around transmissions like this one, you can share what you felt at the gate, what the interference looked like from the inside, what the crossing felt like, what changed. Not as a teacher with answers, but as someone who has crossed a threshold and can describe the view from the other side to someone who is still approaching it. That sharing, that specific, honest, experiential account of what a threshold crossing actually feels like from the inside, is one of the most valuable things you can offer anyone who is standing where you were standing at the beginning of this transmission. Because most of what exists out there about spiritual evolution is either too abstract to be useful or too dramatic to be believable. What is rare, what is genuinely needed, is the honest account, the precise description, the clear-eyed report from someone who has actually been at the gate and crossed it. If this transmission moved you, if something in you shifted, if you felt the gate, if you made the crossing even partially, even in a small way, leave that in the comments. Not for validation, not for community signaling, but as a genuine offering to the next person who finds their way to this transmission, standing at the same threshold you were standing at. Your words, your specific, honest description of what you experienced, may be exactly what tips them from standing at the gate to stepping through it. The field is collective. The crossings are individual, and every individual crossing strengthens the collective field for the next one. Now, let's talk about integration. Because crossing a gate is one thing, integrating the crossing, stabilizing in the new state, making the new frequency your reliable baseline rather than a peak experience, is what the work of the next weeks and months is about. Integration is not complicated. It is not a new practice or a new set of techniques or a new layer of work to add to everything you're already doing. It is, fundamentally, the practice of remembering which side of the gate you're on, of consistently choosing the signal over the interference, of returning again and again to the quality of awareness you touched in this transmission, the clean, quiet, clear quality of your actual frequency, running without distortion, and letting that be your reference point rather than the interference. Here is what that looks like in practice. Every morning, before you engage with the world, before you check your phone, before you start the tasks of the day, before you enter the stream of ordinary consciousness, take a few minutes to feel your signal, to feel the clean frequency of your actual nature, to orient toward the other side of the gate rather than toward the interference. Not as a meditation practice in the formal sense, not as something you have to do right or perform correctly, but as a simple act of orientation, a few minutes of remembering which side of the gate you're on. This is not about maintaining a state of elevated consciousness throughout your day. That is not the goal, and it is not realistic. The goal is to establish the signal as your reference point, the thing you return to when you get pulled off center, the thing you orient toward when the interference reasserts itself, the thing you can always find because you know where it is and what it feels like. When the interference comes, and it will come every day in various forms, you now have a choice that you didn't have before. You can engage with it, give it your orientation, let it become your reality again, or you can feel it. Recognize it as interference rather than signal, and choose to return to the signal. Not fighting the interference, not trying to push it away, just choosing the signal instead. That choice, made consistently, is integration. That choice, made every time the interference asserts itself, is what makes the crossing permanent. It is what turns a threshold experience into a new way of being. The other aspect of integration is allowing the external changes to unfold without forcing them. On the other side of the gate, your field is reorganizing. Your reality is beginning to align with your new frequency. Circumstances are shifting. Relationships are finding their new level. Opportunities are beginning to appear that match the clean frequency you're now transmitting. Let this happen at its own pace. Don't try to accelerate it by forcing external changes before the internal stabilization is complete. Don't try to rebuild your external life from scratch just because you've crossed a threshold internally. Let the internal shift lead, and let the external follow. Trust the frequency. Trust that what is genuinely aligned with your actual nature is already moving toward you, and your job is simply to stay on this side of the gate and be available to receive it when it arrives. There is a particular temptation at this stage that is worth naming. The temptation to test the crossing, to look for evidence that it was real by scanning your external circumstances for changes, to evaluate whether the gate was actually crossed by measuring how different your life looks. Resist this temptation, not because the external changes won't come, they will, but because the act of scanning for evidence, of evaluating and assessing and measuring, is itself a return to the interference frequency. It is the not yet, not ready, not enough frequency in a new form. Instead of not yet ready to cross, it becomes not yet evidence that the crossing worked. It's the same interference, wearing a different costume. The crossing is real. You felt it. You know it. Trust what you felt. Trust what you know. And let the external evidence accumulate at its own pace, in its own time, without needing it to arrive on a schedule that satisfies the part of you that is still listening to the interference. The gate is behind you now. Let me say that again, because it is the most important thing in this entire transmission. The gate is behind you now, not in front of you anymore, not something you're still approaching, still preparing for, still accumulating enough to cross. Behind you. You crossed it. In this transmission, in this moment, through the choice you made to orient toward the signal rather than the interference, you crossed it. Everything that comes next happens on this side of the gate. Everything that unfolds from this moment, every experience, every relationship, every circumstance, every creative act, every moment of service, happens from this side, from the clean frequency, from the signal running without interference. This is a different life than the one you were living an hour ago. Not because the circumstances have changed, they haven't yet, not visibly, but because the frequency has changed. Because the quality of consciousness from which you are engaging with your life has changed. Because the interference that was distorting your signal, that was making the gate feel impassable, that was generating the not yet, not ready, not enough frequency that kept you standing at the threshold. That interference has lost its dominance. And from this side, everything looks different. Not dramatically different, not unrecognizable, not so transformed that you can't find your way in the life you've been living, but different in the way that everything looks different when the static is gone. Clearer, quieter, more precisely itself, more available to you. Your gifts are more available. Your clarity is more available. Your knowing is more available. Your capacity to be present, fully, cleanly, without the constant background drain of maintaining yourself against the interference, is more available. And your mission, whatever form it takes, whatever particular expression of your actual frequency is yours to offer to the world, is more available because it is no longer filtered through the interference. It is coming through the signal. Clean, coherent, precisely what it was designed to be. This is what was on the other side of the gate. This is where you are now. Take a moment to feel that, not as a concept, not as something to analyze or evaluate or assess. Just feel where you are. Feel the quality of the space you're in right now. Feel the difference between the texture of your consciousness at the beginning of this transmission and the texture of it right now. Feel the gate behind you, the threshold you've crossed, the old state you've left on the other side. Feel what it is to be here. This is real. What you're feeling right now is real. The signal is real. The crossing is real. And the life that unfolds from this point, from this frequency, from this side of the gate, is real. You are here. The gate is behind you. And you are never going back. If you find yourself returning to this transmission, if you come back to it in a moment of stillness, when you're standing at the edge of something and need to remember what crossing feels like from the inside, let that be intentional. This is the kind of transmission that lands differently the second time, when you're not approaching the gate but standing on the other side of it, listening for what you missed. And if someone in your life is at their own threshold right now, if you can feel them standing in that corridor, carrying that particular weight, send this to them, not as a recommendation, as a bridge. Your having crossed makes it easier for them to cross. That is how the field works. That is how shared threshold recognition strengthens both fields at once. There is one more thing I want to say before this transmission closes. Something about the nature of gates themselves, about why they exist, about what they mean in the larger context of what consciousness is doing on this planet right now. Gates are not random. Thresholds are not arbitrary. The specific crossing points that appear in a consciousness's evolution appear precisely when they appear for a reason. Because the frequency has built to the exact level where the crossing becomes possible. Because the superposition has reached the exact degree of instability where the collapse into the new state can occur. Because everything that needed to happen to bring you to this threshold has happened. You did not arrive at this gate by accident. The 7 years Mara spent standing at her gate were not wasted years. They were the years that built her frequency to the exact level where the crossing became possible. Every practice, every layer of work, every moment of seeking was contributing to the frequency build that made the threshold crossable. The crossing didn't happen despite those years. It happened because of them. Your years, however many you've been doing this work, however long you've been standing at gates, however much you've accumulated and processed and sought and cleared, were not wasted. They were the approach. They were the frequency build. They were everything that needed to happen to bring you to the exact threshold you crossed today. And the crossing you made today, this specific threshold, this specific state transition, is not the last gate. It is the first gate on this side. From here, there are more thresholds, more crossings, more states to transition into, more frequencies to stabilize at, more versions of yourself to become. But each crossing is easier than the last, not because the thresholds become less significant. They become more significant, because you're crossing into higher and higher frequency states. But because you now know how crossing works. You know the mechanism. You know the difference between the signal and the interference. You know how to choose the signal. You know what the gate feels like from the inside, and you know what the other side feels like when you arrive. That knowledge, that specific, embodied, experiential knowledge of how thresholds work and how crossings happen, is the most valuable thing you carry forward from this transmission. More valuable than any concept or framework or understanding. The lived experience of having stood at a gate and crossed it. You will stand at more gates. You will feel the threshold tension again. You will feel the interference making its case for staying on the familiar side. You will feel the pull of the old state and the pull of the new state simultaneously. The superposition of who you were and who you're becoming. And you will know what to do, because you've done it, because you know how the crossing works, because you know that the gate opens when your frequency matches what's on the other side, and you know how to make that match, not through effort or accumulation or earning or qualifying, through choice, through orientation, through the simple, clear, fully conscious decision to turn toward the signal rather than the interference. Every gate after this one, you will cross with more confidence, with more certainty, with more trust in the mechanism and in yourself as a being who is capable of making these crossings. Because you have crossed. Because you know the other side is real. Because you have felt the clean frequency of your actual nature running without interference. And you know that it is possible. And you know that it is available. And you know that it is yours. This is the gift of the first crossing. Not just the new state you've arrived in, but the knowledge that the crossing is possible, the embodied certainty that the gate is real, that the other side is real, that you are capable of crossing, and that every threshold you stand at from this point forward is crossable. You are a being who crosses gates. That is what you are now. That is what you've always been, but now you know it. Now it's been activated, not by any external force, not by any being or guide or transmission, but by your own choice, by your own conscious, deliberate, fully aware decision to orient toward your actual frequency, rather than toward the interference that was running over it. The activation was always yours to make. The gate was always yours to cross. The signal was always yours. It was never lost, never damaged, never diminished. It was just waiting for you to choose it. You chose it. The gate is behind you. Welcome to the other side. In the days ahead, when you feel the interference trying to reassert itself, and you will, because integration takes time and the old patterns have inertia, come back to what you felt in this transmission. Come back to the quality of awareness you touched when you felt the signal running clean beneath the static. Come back to the moment of choice, the moment of orientation, the moment where you turned toward the signal and felt the crossing begin. That moment is always available to you. not just as a memory, but as a living frequency that you can access any time you choose to orient toward it. The signal doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't fade or diminish or become harder to access as time passes. It gets stronger, actually, because every time you choose it, every time you orient toward it, every time you let it be more real than the interference, you are adding to its resonance in your field. Over time, over the days and weeks and months of consistent orientation toward the signal, the interference will lose so much of its resonance that it will no longer be able to generate a convincing simulation of reality. It will become background noise that you barely notice, rather than the dominant frequency of your experience. And the signal, your actual frequency, the clean, coherent transmission of what you actually are, will become so stable, so reliable, so consistently present that it will simply be what it's like to be you. That is the destination. That is what this crossing is pointing toward. Not a dramatic, permanent, instantaneous transformation of every aspect of your life all at once, but a steady, irreversible, accumulating shift in the frequency from which you operate, from interference to signal, from distortion to clarity, from the exhausting effort of maintaining yourself against a dense frequency environment to the natural, effortless flow of operating from your actual nature. You are on your way. The gate is behind you. The signal is running. And the life that is yours, the actual life, the life that matches your actual frequency, the life that was always waiting on the other side of the threshold, is beginning to take shape around you right now. Feel it. Trust it. Stay here. The gate is open. You have crossed. And everything that comes next comes from this side. There is no going back.